Hi everybody, Jeremy Miller with Pirate Consulting back with another Hire and Fire podcast video series message. And today's message is this: you can't ask for more money than the manager, can you? Sit back, relax, and enjoy. All right, we're talking about pay rates today. And they're going up. So I've mentioned this in videos before. Typically, pay rates are a lagging indicator. So when the economy kind of sucks and things start going south and there's not a lot of jobs, naturally there's more people than jobs. So salaries can be impacted by that, but normally it takes about a year, that's my estimation in my experience, for the pay rates to catch up to that. So we would need a bad economy for about a year before we see pay rates maybe go down because of supply and demand. We're on the other end of the spectrum right now where it's been quite a while where we've had a hot job market, basically since the day COVID started. So a little over 2 years. So that's plenty of time to let salaries catch up. So we got a supply and demand problem with how many people are available, meaning there's not enough. So naturally companies start willing to pay more to get talent. Obviously, consultants and job seekers start getting smarter, realizing they're in more demand and they're looking for more money. It's just the way of the world. So what we're running into in some groups is that we have people asking for more money than the manager makes who's interviewing them, which is a little weird. However, there's certain skill sets we find in IT where this is fairly commonplace. Security is a big one. It's such an emphasis for organizations that they have to pay, they need the talent. Shit happens, right? I mean, Target has a box of customer data fall off the back of a UPS truck, and now they're in the news, their stock is plummeting, and they gotta spend some money on this. That happened to them years ago. So security is one. We kind of see that in the DevOps area as well. That's such a big hot skill set right now. It's in demand that sometimes those folks as engineers will be making more on salary than their managers are. But nonetheless, it's a little bit of a weird situation for the manager, but it only happens in certain skill sets. So the thing about pay rates that's going to be a challenge is they can't go up forever. Companies are just going to have to lock rates. And we've started running into a little bit of that where folks are asking for what would presently be a very justifiable salary, but they're getting rejected due to money alone. Now that happens every single day, but what makes it more interesting right now is that it's actually in the favor of the job seeker. So companies are struggling with budgets or figure out a way to pay the people that they need, but they just can't. They can't commit to those big salaries. So here's what I'm starting to wonder. We haven't seen a lot of this, but I think we're gonna. So mark the tape and we'll see if I'm right or wrong. I'm hoping, frankly, for the American public that this increases the benefits packages that are offered to people. If they can't pay you more in salary, maybe they can start giving you either more vacation or better benefits, meaning covering all of it. Those of you who remember back in the 90s, early to mid 90s, well before benefits started changing, it was very commonplace to have 100% benefits coverage. You know, one of our employees jokes about having a $10 baby, right? Because it was a copay and that was it. As almost all of you experience, that's a thing of the past because of healthcare costs, but maybe supply and demand will move that back into that category so that employers can bring in the people they need without having to pay a fortune, but still give them additional benefits that might offset the salary. Vacation's a big one too. Seeing 4, 5, 6 weeks of vacation. I mean, 4 or 5 weeks of vacation is basically giving you a month off a year. I mean, 1/12 of the year. That's really lucrative and beneficial for somebody who values that. Maybe we'll start seeing a lot of education-based credits. Most corporations are pretty good at that, but that could be something else that comes into play. So what are companies going to do when the price for talent in a job market that hasn't been this hot since the 60s to get people? If they can't afford to pay salaries that high forever, then maybe they'll start doing some ancillary benefits and people can win that way, even if they're not getting $200,000, $300,000 a year that they may be looking for. Insert cliche example here. So think about that with pay rates. If you're struggling because you're on the high end of it, maybe you can start asking for more ancillary benefits or have that as a negotiating tool in your back pocket. which it used to be, and only so much so recently over the last few years, at least in my experience. Maybe it'll become a better bargaining chip if you can't get that max contract that you're looking for. You could settle a little bit on salary and ask for more benefits associated. And then you folks in HR, talent acquisition, procurement, budgeting, what have you, this is something to consider as well, because we're running into it. I'm assuming you are too, where if you need senior talent, they're expensive, maybe just flat out too expensive for you. And a lot of times employers don't want to bring people in at their max salary range. Even if they could pay it now, they know definitively even a reasonable cost of living adjustment after a review is going to be damn near impossible. So they don't even want to go to the max, even if they could, just so they can use increases as a retention tool. So we got a lot of pay rate shenanigans going on right now. Good for all of you that are capitalizing on that. It's an amazing time to do so. A lot of folks have already made those moves, already chased the dollar per se. So maybe that's why we're having a little bit of a lull in talent right now, but we shall see. Thanks for listening, and we'll come back with another message from Pirate Consulting and the Hire Fire podcast. Thank you for listening to the Hire Fire podcast, brought to you by Pirate Consulting. Check us out on LinkedIn, Facebook, Instagram, YouTube, or online at pirateconsulting.com. That's PIRA consulting.com.